Sometimes all you really need to start is once upon a time. I thought we could talk today about something I find rather controversial. It's all about how we as authors overcomplicate things. We like to make our work, our stories as complicated as possible. I don't know where this has come from. I find that this tends to happen more with the American authors as well, authors based in the United States. And I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's due to wanting to get as many readers as possible or get the accolades from the industry or from the publishing houses, but I'm noticing it more and more. And one thing I will say is a complicated story doesn't necessarily mean a better story. It just means it's more complicated. It doesn't mean it's any better or any more entertaining or any more immersive than any other story. I'll tell a little story. I picked up a book once at the airport. This was at Heathrow Airport. I was backpacking at the time and I was on a trip to Panama. I picked the book up at the local W.H. Smith. For those of you who don't know, W.H. Smith is a local bookshop in London, or across the UK. I don't know if they still exist anymore because I no longer live in the United Kingdom. Anyway, I picked up these books. They were on the bestseller list. Because they were on the bestseller list, I automatically thought they were going to be amazing books. Got on the plane, started reading one of them. This was on a long-haul flight from London to Panama, and at the time there was nothing I loved better than reading. I started the book, and it started slowly, and I thought, okay, it's coming. But I never quite got there, and I wasn't sure what was going on, and this was more than halfway through the book, and I started to wonder what the point was to the entire story. And this was a book that had an amazing blurb. It was about a young boy whose sister had died in childhood, and I thought this is a great story. You know, this makes for a good background blurb. The blurb sounds amazing. The cover looks really good. You know, it looked dark and ominous. I was tempted to put the book down at one point because I thought, where is the story going? Are we actually going to get anywhere? And when are we going to get there? Because I hadn't gotten anything of value from the story. I kept on with it because I didn't want to not finish it. I thought that would be quite disrespectful to the author. Now I know better. And I got to the end. And when I read the last few pages, the whole premise of the book was basically what he thought had happened was what had actually happened. And that was the entire story. And I do believe that this might not have been the author's original story. It probably started in a certain way, but the editors and whoever else was working on the book thought, why don't we take it in this direction? What they also say is, once your book has been through so many edits, the story no longer resembles what you were writing in the first place. Therein lies the problem. I was so disappointed when I got to the end of the book, and I looked at the cover for several minutes. And I don't remember the name of the author, and I would never mention any author's names, but it was so disappointing, the entire experience. And this is why I believe that keep your story simple, because I think in a bid to get noticed by people in the industry and to get noticed by readers and to make your stories stand out, the stories are becoming more and more strange and convoluted and just complicated. And when you have a story that's too complicated, I'm not saying that you cannot challenge readers, but you miss the point of it, because books should be immersive. They should be entertaining. They should take you away to another time, another place. That's the whole point of books, right? Well, apart from fiction, obviously. I started book marketing on social media because that was the place to be. One trend I noticed was a lot of the books that were marketed on there and became quite popular. I picked up about 3 of them, but I couldn't finish a story. And I couldn't believe I couldn't finish a story because I thought, these books are so popular with so many other people. What's wrong with me? Am I the problem? But I realized that the authors, in a bid to have the most entertaining, the best story out there were no longer storytelling. It was more about theatrics and attention grabbing. Some of us will have our favourite authors. And if you look at some of our favourite authors, people we've read for years or decades, we go back to them for a certain reason, because they never move very far from the script, very far from what they're used to writing. And this is what you do as well as a writer, because you cannot afford to confuse your readers. Keeping a story simple can be beneficial in many ways. It gives clarity to the reader, it increases reader engagement, it makes the characters, I believe, more accessible to the readers, and it also gives the readers more emotional connection to the characters. But the more complex the characters are, and the more complex everything is, and the more they're yanked, as I said previously, out of the story and all over the place, the less they build a rapport with the characters in the story. I would also say that the simpler a story is, the more it transcends time and the more timeless it becomes. It's a story that can be read for many generations and by many generations. It's a story that can also, I believe, be passed across different cultures as well. So all you need is a bit of translation and you have a new story reaching a new audience as well. So I just thought I'd come on here. I hope I gave some relevant points about why it's just best to sometimes keep a story simple, and I hope it was informative and of some sort of value. I think the best point and the best reason for writing a simple story is the execution of the story by the author. Writing a simple story is easier for the author to write, as silly as that sounds, because it's easier to just write it down, check your work, send it over to the editor, and it'll be easier for the editor to edit as well, and for any other people involved in the process to go over the work and navigate the work. So I would say definitely try and keep stories as simple as possible for your own good, for the good of the reader, and for the quality of your work. Bye.